Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're really on a mission. We're trying to cut through all the technical literature, all the marketing hype.
All the noise.
Exactly. To just distill the absolute essential knowledge about modern audio production.
Yeah.
We're talking workflow, system optimization, and the plugins that actually make a difference. The goal is simple, really, a shortcut for you, so you can stop troubleshooting and just start creating.
That's the dream, isn't it? To minimize that technical friction.
It really is.
And this deep dive, it's not just a list of features, it's about strategy. We're going from, the high-level philosophy of just choosing your DAW,
Right,
all the way down to the micro-level system tweaks and cutting-edge effects. It's all about giving you actionable knowledge to just maximize your creative potential.
I think we all agree that time spent configuring a computer is just wasted time. So we're tackling this in three main parts today. First up, optimize workflows in your whole DAW philosophy.
Then we'll get into mastering essential plugins and sound shaping.
And finally, we'll wrap with system performance and even cross-platform production. So let's jump right in. The cockpit, your digital audio workstation.
Okay, so the foundational philosophy here is so crucial, and it's something people overlook when they're chasing, the latest trends. The best DAW is not the one your favorite producer uses. It's not the one with the biggest feature set. The best DAW is the one that feels completely invisible to you.
The one you don't have to think about.
Exactly. The one that removes all the friction between your idea and the sound.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, your ear and your mastery of the core tools.
EQ, compression, reverb.
Right. That's always going to matter more than any fancy proprietary effect.
That distinction is key. It's about personal comfort, which leads to speed. Our sources did a great job categorizing the landscape, which is helpful.
Yeah, they really did. You basically have the linear DAWs. This is your traditional tape machine style, structured timeline workflow.
So think Pro Tools or Logic Pro.
Exactly. Absolute workhorses for traditional recording and songwriting.
And then you have the non-linear DWs, which have just exploded in modern production. Super flexible, all about clips and loops.
That's Ableton Live, FL Studio. They enable incredible speed for electronic music, sound design, that kind of thing.
And of course there are hybrids now, like Studio One, that try to blend both worlds.
And then you have your specialized ones, like Nuendo for serious film post-production, or the really accessible free and open source options.
Like Audacity and GarageBand.
Mm-hmm.
But when we talk about pure efficiency and flexibility, our keeper comes up again and again in our sources.
Mm-hmm.
It's affordable, but its technical structure is what makes it so fast.
The efficiency comes from its architectural simplicity. They use a single track type.
A single track type for everything.
Everything. It handles audio, MIDI, buses, routing, all at the same time. This just gets rid of the confusion of managing dedicated track types for different tasks.
So you're not switching your brain between this is a MIDI track, this is an audio track.
You're not. It just speeds up building a session dramatically.
But the real power move, the thing that makes it a true workflow weapon, is the customization, the custom actions.
Yeah, and this is way more than just a keyboard shortcut. A custom action is a macro. You can chain dozens of different functions together. Like duplicate track, render items in place, mute, original, color new track, purple, that whole sequence. And you can execute it all with a single key press.
Wow.
And here's the genius part. You can tell it to consolidate undo points so that massive action only takes up one step in your undo history.
Oh, that keeps things so clean.
It's unbelievable for maintaining a fast workflow when you're deep in sound design.
Another interesting thing about Retaper is its support for JSFX plugins.
Yeah.
These are basically effects written as simple text files.
It kind of democratizes audio processing. If you have a simple need, like a really specific filter curve or some utility function, you can just prototype it yourself.
Just with text code.
Right in the DAW.
Yeah.
It's a huge efficiency boost if you like to customize your toolset.
And for anyone doing sound design or making sample packs, our sources pointed out a killer feature, rendering selected items individually.
Oh, this saves so much time. You could have a 10-minute track with, say, 50 little sound effects on it.
Yeah.
You can render all 50 as individual, automatically named files in one shot. It can save hours.
All of this efficiency, it's really all aimed at one thing, managing your CPU.
Absolutely. Professionals don't just, hit record and mix. They work in distinct phases to manage the system load.
Okay, let's break down that strategy. So phase one is composition and arrangement. You're performing, recording MIDI, vocals. What does that require from the system?
Low latency, that's the key. You hit a key on your keyboard, you need to hear the sound instantly. That means a very small buffer size, like 32 or 64 samples.
But that puts a huge strain on the CPU, right?
A massive strain. It dramatically increases the risk of crackles and dropouts as you add more tracks.
Okay, so once the performance is captured, we move to phase 2, mixing. Now we don't need that instant response anymore, we need stability.
Exactly. You convert those demanding virtual instruments into clean audio tracks. It's a process called printing or bouncing.
Right.
Then you intentionally increase your buffer size way up, maybe to 512 or even 124 samples.
Why do you do that?
Because the CPU doesn't have to stress about real-time response anymore. It can take its time, process bigger chunks of audio, and that frees up immense resources for heavy effects plugins.
Like convolution reverbs and big compressors. And then phase 3 is the final isolation, mastering. You export your stereo mix and open it in a completely new, clean project.
It might seem like an extra step, but mastering chains are often the most CPU-intensive processors of all. Limiters, linear phase EQs.
So by separating it, you ensure that zero resources are being wasted on the main session. It just isolates that final critical step.
Precisely.
Now, a key technique to get from phase 1 to 2 is using freezing and bouncing. What is the critical difference between freezing and, say, flattening?
Freezing is your non-destructive option. It renders the track to a temporary audio file, so the CPU load is gone.
But you can still change things.
Right, you can still tweak the volume, panning, sends in the mixer, and if you need to edit the original MIDI, you just unfreeze it instantly.
So it's totally reversible. Flattening or bouncing is the commitment.
That's it. It permanently renders the track into a new audio file with all the effects, EQ, compression, everything baked in. You've fully committed. You can't go back and change the delay time after you've bounced.
Our sources had a really specific warning for Ableton Live users about freezing that's worth mentioning.
Yes, this is a subtle one that gets a lot of producers. If you freeze a track in the arrangement view, the timeline, the reverb, and delay tails are included as well.
Which is what you'd expect.
Right. But if you freeze that exact same track in the session view, the clip launcher, the tails come out abruptly.
Oh, that's a problem.
It can be. So you have to be aware of the context you're freezing in. Plus, frozen clips in live can be affected by the warp engine, which might slightly change the sound.
That detail is exactly why we do these jobs. Okay, let's pivot from optimizing the engine to the tools inside. Section 2. The plugins that define the modern mix, and the game changer is dynamic equalization.
This is the tool that just revolutionized transparency in mixing. A dynamic EQ is essentially an EQ that's being controlled by a compressor.
Okay, so traditional EQ is static. It always cuts at 150 hertz if you tell it to.
Always. A dynamic EQ only applies that cut when the signal at 150 hertz crosses a threshold you set.
Wait, why is that so much better? If I already have a multiband compressor, why do I need a dynamic EQ?
It's about transparency. Multiband compression splits your whole signal into wide bands, which can introduce phase smearing or subtle timing issues.
Okay.
Dynamic EQs, like the excellent PDR Nova, even the free version, they use much more precise surgical bands that only act when they need to. It leads to far less audible processing.
And TDR Nova is highlighted for good reason. It's free for dynamic bands, filters, even mid-side processing. That's a huge feature set for nothing.
And the applications are surgical. You use it to fix problems that traditional compression just handles clumsily, like taming an annoying ring on a snare.
Or that boomy kick sound.
Exactly. That boomy kick frequency, often around 120 to 180 hertz. But the EQ only cuts it when the kick actually hits hard enough to cause the problem. The rest of the time, it's flat.
You can also use it as the ultimate de-esser.
Oh, absolutely. This is surgical aggression. You use a dynamic band right on the sibilant range, say 5 kilohertz to 10 kilohertz, set a high ratio like 4.1 or even higher, and a lightning fast attack.
Like 1 millisecond.
Yeah, and that band just clamps down on those sharp S sounds, but it leaves all the other vocal details completely untouched.
So you keep all the clarity and air. Moving on to space and dimension, we have to talk about the two titans, convolution versus algorithmic reverb.
Convolution reverb is the sound of reality. It uses what are called impulse responses, or IRs.
Which are basically acoustic snapshots of real places.
Exactly. The vastness of a cathedral, the echo chambers at Abbey Road, a vintage plate reverb. Plugins like Altiverb are famous because they perfectly mimic the complex sound of those real spaces.
So convolution equals realism. Algorithmic reverb, then, is all about creative control.
Precisely. Algorithmic reverbs, like the Valhalla Stuff Room Vintage Verb, they're amazing free ones, super massive. They use complex math to build the effect from scratch.
Which means you can create impossible spaces.
Impossible spaces, endless decay times, you can modulate the tail. You get total flexibility that a real room can never give you.
Before we move on, let's touch on the element that gives digital tracks their character. Saturation. This is what keeps a track from sounding thin or too digital.
Saturation, usually from tape or tube emulation, is essential. It adds subtle harmonic distortion and dynamic compression.
It's not just about squashing the peaks.
Not at all. It introduces these nonlinear harmonics that add richness, density, perceived loudness. It gives the track a texture. The Slate's virtual tape machine is a classic example of this.
That brings up the hardware versus software debate. We hear engineers talk about how analog gear creates sonic glue or makes a mix feel 3D. What's actually happening there?
It's not just a feeling, it's a real thing. It's the compounding additive effect.
Explain that.
When you run multiple tracks through, say, the same brand of analog preamp, you're introducing the same set of tiny imperfections across all of them.
The same noise floor, the same distortion.
Exactly. The same subtle phase shifts. When those small, identical distortions overlap, they subtly lock the tracks together in the mix. That's the glue.
That makes perfect sense. They all share a common sonic fingerprint. But there's a serious word of caution if you're tracking through hardware.
Absolutely. The rule of thumb is this. When you're tracking, avoid heavy compression if you are at all unsure.
Because you can't undo it.
You can't take it away if it's baked in. Once you crush the dynamic range of a vocal, that nuance is gone forever. Always preserve those initial dynamics for mixing.
Preserving flexibility is ultimately about system performance. So our final section, system optimization. None of these amazing plugins matter if your computer's crashing. We have crucial tips, especially for Windows users.
Okay, the single most impactful thing you can do on a Windows machine is fix your power settings. If you do nothing else, do this.
What is it?
Go into your power plan and set it to high performance. The default setting allows the CPU to slow down to save power, which is death for audio. It causes instant dropouts.
And there are a few specific settings within that high-performance plan to lock down.
Yes. Set the PC to never sleep. Obvious, but important. Most critically, set the minimum processor state to 100%.
So the CPU is always running at full speed.
Always. It prevents those random performance drops. Also, disable USB selective suspense settings. That'll keep your audio interface from randomly cutting out.
And of course, the simple housekeeping of using Task Manager to kill unnecessary startup programs is still essential.
Every background process is stealing cycles from your audio.
This all ties back to that latency versus CPU trade-off we talked about.
Right. A large buffer size is safe for mixing. These Windows tweaks just make sure that when you do need a low buffer size for recording, the system is fully dedicated to that one job.
Our sources also touched on cross-platform production, especially for the growing Linux audio community. You have native denos like Reaper, but how do users get access to all the Windows VST plugins?
That requires a plugin bridge, and the standout tool here is called YaBridge.
YaBridge?
It's incredibly efficient, and it lets Linux DWs run Windows, VST2, VST3, and the newer CLAP plugins almost seamlessly.
You've mentioned CLAP a couple of times. For listeners who aren't deep in the weeds, what is that?
CLAP is a newer open source plugin format. It stands for Clever Audio Plugin.
Okay.
It's gaining ground because it's designed to handle modern multi-core processors way better than the old VST formats. It just means smoother performance and better stability.
That's a key piece of information.
Yeah.
But running premium Windows plugins on Linux is not always a smooth ride, is it?
Definitely not. You have to be aware of the caveats. A lot of premium plugins use copy protection that can fail when running under a compatibility layer like Wine,
Like Isotope, for example.
Isotope, V16 group. And even some high-end VST3s from Waves have been known to cause memory issues or crashes. You really have to research which specific plugins have issues before you commit.
We started this dive talking about efficiency, and our sources had a final thought that sort of debunks the need for constant hardware upgrades.
It's the big takeaway. A smart workflow beats raw horsepower every time. The efficiency of a DAW like Reaper means that even older hardware, they mentioned a 2012 Dell laptop.
A ThinkPad.
Yeah, an old Lenovo ThinkPad. Even those can be highly effective production tools as long as you use the phasing strategy and manage your intensive plugins.
So we've really gone from the highest level of choice, which DI suits you, down to the deepest level of technical tweaking.
And the synthesis is clear. Professional success really relies on structure. You implement the workflow phases. You understand freezing versus bouncing. You use the power of dynamic tools. That structure and efficiency is what unlocks your creative freedom.
And that freedom leads us to a final provocative thought. We spent this entire deep dive talking about tools, convolution reverb, tape saturation, all designed to recreate the realities of the physical world. Given how good digital tools are now at emulating every nuance of the analog experience, what happens when we stop trying to emulate reality? Is the true frontier of sound design maybe the sound that is algorithmically impossible to produce in any physical space? The sound that only a computer, free from the laws of physics, can truly create?
A fascinating concept for you to explore the next time you open your session. Until then, keep diving deep.